So it is the beginning of a new year. And I typically, on the first Sunday of the new year, I usually ask, how many of you made New Year's resolutions? Good. That's it. Wow. Well, according to research, about 60% of us admit that we've made resolutions, so the rest of you just aren't admitting it. But you probably made a resolutions, and unfortunately, only 8% of us actually are successful in keeping them. But even if we failed before, it seems that all around this world, in a time-honored tradition, people continue to make those new resolutions. So according to Inc. magazine, here are the top 10 New Year's resolutions for 2019. So if you haven't made one, here's a suggestion. Diet or eat healthier, exercise more, lose weight, save more and spend less, learn a new hobby or skill, quit smoking, read more, find another job, drink less alcohol, spend more time with family and friends. I was reading this, that last one intrigued me. Spend more time with family and friends. It intrigued me because I was reading an article recently, and in this article was a study that claimed American families have less than 37 minutes of quality time together per day. 37 minutes. And although that amount of quality time jumps up to about 2 hours and 40 minutes a day on the weekends, many families are still struggling to find time to properly bond with one another without distraction. So that quality time is not just time spent in proximity to one another, but time spent without distraction. And that might be because 60% of parents describe their daily lives as hectic. 1 in 4 say they lack quality time away from chores, work, school, or screen time, and that's become a problem for their family. And the top things that they blame are long hours at work, weekends spent doing chores, and just this endless cycle of trying to keep up with kids' schedules. So as I was thinking about this and I look across our culture today, we have a problem with being hurried in our culture. We have a bias towards hurry. We value speed, efficiency, and quickness. Waiting is bad, and getting what we want now is good. And we're imposing this lifestyle of hurry onto our children. When our children are growing up, there is this sense that they have to be involved in everything. And when I was a kid, I remember I was involved in only 2 things outside of school activities. In the fall, I played football, and then the rest of the year I spent in scouts. But now there is soccer and gymnastics and volleyball and swimming and football and lacrosse and basketball and piano lessons and guitar lessons and kids yoga and drama classes and art classes and band and orchestra and Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, and that's just about half of the things that our kids can be involved in. And it's like we're judged to be a bad parent if our kids aren't involved in something every single night of the week. Because who knows? I mean, our kid may grow up to be an Olympic swimmer, or they may get that full ride to college, or they may turn pro. Really? And then they go to high school with extracurricular activities and AP classes, and we push our kids until they're up until 2 in the morning to finish their homework so that they can get college credit while they're 16. Really? And we live this way. And we're beholden to our clocks and to our calendars, and we feel like that there is something wrong if we're not busy all the time. And everything seems geared around us, fulfilling our tasks and our requirements at the right time, and we have so much on our plates that we possibly just can't do it all. Several people describe the experience of living this fast-paced life in the following ways. They said, I feel like I'm always juggling 12 glass balls in the air. I feel like we're becoming human doings instead of human beings. Oh, my favorite, I'm too busy to answer this question right now. Then there's this one. There isn't a facet of my life that isn't hurry. 3 busy kids under 13, 1 with health issues, an active husband and father, and my schedule. We're all distracted all of the time. We have soundbite conversations. We forget lots, and we never know if we're coming or if we're going. Is that familiar? And I believe that this fast pace and hurried life is keeping us from the life that God intends for us to have, a life where we can see things clearly and listen more carefully and think more deeply and savor life more fully. I mean, that's the problem of a hurried life. We don't see life clearly. In the early days of Billy Graham's career, he was in Los Angeles leading a crusade. It was shortly after his daughter Anne was born. And he was busy preaching and teaching. And so his brother-in-law and his sister-in-law decided that they were going to travel to Los Angeles with his new daughter Anne and surprise Billy with a visit from his daughter. And so they got to Los Angeles, and Billy Graham greeted them at the airport, greeted them warmly, said, "It is so great to see you. Who's this little baby you brought with you?" He was so busy he didn't recognize his own daughter. I mean, sometimes we're in such a hurry, we miss the beautiful things in life because we have to get somewhere. And we have to get there now. We don't have time to look into people's eyes and to see if they're hurting or if they need help or if they need our encouragement. And even if we do see it, sometimes we're so busy that we just don't even stop to help. Another problem is we're in such a hurry, we don't listen carefully. One of the things I have noticed over the last several years is that we are now listening so that we can formulate our response rather than listening to understand what the other person's saying. Or maybe we're just too busy to just stop and really have a conversation with someone. Or when we're in a hurry, we don't think deep thoughts. You see, when you're thinking a deep thought, that really means you're reflecting on life. You stop and you think, what does this mean? Why did this happen? What do I do about this in the future? What has this taught me about life or about God? But when we don't have time to think deep thoughts, our culture continues to drift into becoming more and more superficial. Because we don't make the time to go deeper. And to go deeper means that we're thinking and we're reading and we're taking time to pay attention and to ponder. And when we're in a hurry, we miss out on savoring life. We don't take the time to savor life because we're so busy getting on to the next thing. We don't take the time to just say, wow, look what happened. Let's celebrate this milestone, because we're too busy saying, what do we have to do next? When we're constantly in a hurry, there is no time to develop friendships. There's no time to share what's happening in other people's lives. There's no time for laughter and for joy. What do we do without doing one more thing? Well, I think we can take a lesson from the Magi as we complete the circle of Christmas today. So listen to these words or follow along. Matthew 2, verses 1 through 12. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at its rising, and we have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet, and you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chest, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. You know, whenever I hear this passage, this part of the Christmas story, it is hard for me not to continually imagine what we saw this morning of kids in ill-fitting crowns, walking down a center aisle, just missing we three kings. That's how we know there was three kings. Our hymns say so. You know how I feel about that. But in my imagination, things are kind of taking a different route for me this year, because I see in the Magi some hints, some nuggets of things that maybe we can use to take back our schedules. First hint, they made it a priority to pursue Jesus. These travelers to Bethlehem were just living out the natural conclusion to their life's work. They spent their lives studying the stars. And when they saw a star which seemed to hold meaning, all they could do, if they were going to be true to who they were called to be, was to follow it. And nothing would divert them from their mission. God gave them a dream to pursue, and not even King Herod, the most powerful person in that region of the land, was going to distract them. And when they came to the place to which the star led them, they were met there by God. So that just tells me, if we want to unhurry, if we want to make faith a priority, if we want to make family a priority, then just make it a priority. You control your calendar. Don't let your calendar control you. Second hint, they came to worship him. Right from the beginning, they were clear in the purpose of their journey. We have seen his star in the east, and we have come to worship him. They refused to be distracted by the unimportant things in life so that they could focus on what really mattered in life. And I know that there are times when we struggle about whether or not we should come to worship. We have other things to do. We have sleep we want to get. There's a game we want to watch. But this time is important. It's important because it helps us to remember who we are. It helps us to remember whose we are. It helps to connect us to God. It helps us to plug into a spiritual recharger. This is a time that's meant for you to find yourself renewed and encouraged and strengthened. And so today I want to challenge you not to make a New Year's resolution. I want to challenge you to start a new habit. You've already begun it today, so you just have to continue it. It takes about 30 days to take a habit, to take something and make it a habit. I want you to make worship a habit. Regardless of what else is going on in life, make worship a priority to spend time with God and with our community of faith. And the final hint is they returned home another way. If you keep doing things the same way, you're going to get the same results. So if you want something different, here's a hint. Do something different. When you've had an encounter with God, you should be transformed, and that transformation should cause us to walk a different path than the one we started on. So if you want a different result, try a different method. You know, it's interesting. How many of you remember well the 60s and 70s? I don't, but remember well. Do you remember during those 2 decades we were promised that technology would be developed that would increase our leisure time. We were promised, due to this new technology, we would be able to move to a 3-day work week. How many of you got that yet? We were promised that we would have more time for leisure and a less hurried lifestyle. Not true. Instead, technology has accelerated our pace of life, making our days fuller and giving us much less downtime. We now have the ability to fit more tasks into less time. We have technology to fill every minute of every day with work and with activity. And while we might be able to get more done, has it made life more meaningful? What this fast-paced lifestyle is really doing to us is increasing the stress that we feel. It's taking the joy out of our lives. It's making us less productive, and it is deafening us to God's voice. I mean, even this morning I was reading my devotional. I want to share with you what I read this morning. Would you have noticed the star in the sky, or would you have been too busy and distracted? Would you have been quiet and still enough to look up, to contemplate the stars and the greatness of the universe? To stop and be in awe, to breathe in the cold night air, to notice that something was happening. Sometimes we wait for God to come, but what we really need to do is be quiet and attentive enough to notice and discern what God is already doing. And more often than not, God is found where we least expect Him. So to begin to lead us into a more unhurried life, I want to teach us a prayer exercise today that I'd like you to do every morning. So it comes right from Psalm 46, verse 10. Repeat after me. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know. Be still. Be. Every morning, just repeat that refrain and remove the words until you're at a point where just for a few moments, if you could just be. Let's pray.